Inside the Louvre, it was sweltering. An overweight guard named Maximilien Popardin, who worked in the Salon Carré, had eaten too much cassoulet at lunch. He was lethargic, drooping, and when he left that evening, Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, the Mona Lisa, was hanging on the wall. When he returned 2 days later, all that remained were 4 iron hooks and a rectangular shape several shades deeper than the surrounding area. The painting had been stolen.
Welcome to Heist Club, where we got a new heist story coming at you each week. We're here to uncover the details behind some of the most audacious and ridiculous robberies of all time, how they pulled it off, how they got caught, and the mysteries that remain. Bank heist, art heist, diamond heist, and other capers you won't believe. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Todd. Welcome to the club. Okay, I guess let's get into it. So, hi Jesse, how you doing?
Hello. Good.
So today we're talking about what is thought of as the greatest art theft of the 20th century. But you will hear that it is not exactly a sophisticated heist per se. Here in Heist Club, I think we're all about the creativity and the brain power that it takes to pull off complicated, incredible heist, but maybe a little less so this time, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize the Mona Lisa was stolen, and maybe don't realize that's what made it as famous as it is today. But I think then when you think, oh my God, the Mona Lisa was stolen, wow, Thomas Crown affair. This must have been the fanciest, craziest endeavor. And then you read the details. It was like, that guy just did what? He just grabbed it? Basically, no, he did a little more than that. This was 1911. We don't have all the details maybe we would have of a more modern crime. Or we have, fictional details online, which maybe we can trust, maybe we can't. But it does not come off as something that was weeks, months, maybe even days of planning. It comes off like a little bit like, hey, I have access to it. Hey, I'll take it. Now, what do I do with it?
Right.
We'll see,
Yeah, it's just kind of an opportunist, I guess. We'll go into the motivations and stuff. But it kind of makes sense that, like, this is part of the reason why it was famous. Growing up as a kid or whatever, I was just like, why do people like this painting so much? I didn't understand it. And do I still understand it now? I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not sure. That's a great point, though, because I feel like, I don't know. Well, as a child, I think Starry Night stands out a little more. You're like, oh, I see. Even if I don't know nothing about painting, I see some of the artistry. There's just things where you're like, oh, I get it. It's a little larger than life. Even
exactly. Or like the Scream. I get that. It's crazy. It's scary.
Memorable. It evokes emotion. While why is this room at the Louvre just packed with people trying to take pictures? Why is that? Why is that the case? But let's start with the Mona Lisa itself, right? As I think everyone knows, painted by Leonardo da Vinci. We all know that. And what we may not know, immediately getting into a little bit of stuff that maybe people don't know, is that it's also known as La Gioconda. I believe that's maybe we'll get this later, but I've been to the Louvre. I saw it in person. And, a lot of times these paintings frames say the name of the piece right under. I believe it said La Gioconda for many reasons, to not say Mona Lisa. But basically around the world, it's known as La Gioconda because it's a portrait of the Italian noble Lisa del Giocondo. Mm-hmm. Although not in France, where it's known as La Gioconde. So different names, different places, but here in America, definitely Mona Lisa. And we can geek out for our linguist out there for a second in that Mona with 2 N's is Italian, polite form of addressing, kind of like ma'am or madam or my lady. And that became Madonna, my lady, Madonna. And its contraction became Mona. But then, we spell it with 1 N. They would not spell it with 1 N in Italy, which we've read, because 1 N in Italy, Mona means lady parts, if you would.
Right. Yeah. I bet it's a different word, but yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think if I went to the Louvre and I saw the underneath it that it didn't say Mona Lisa, I think I would trip myself up. Like, is this not the Mona Lisa?
Am I in the wrong room? Exactly. Why are all these people taking a picture of the La Gioconda? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, do you know what the Mona Lisa is? Like, stupid American.
Yeah.
It is the most famous, recognizable, copied artwork, as we've said. But as we've also kind of hinted at, that wasn't always the case. It was painted in 1507, and it wasn't until the 1860s that critics began to really appreciate it. At the time of the heist, from what we've read, the Mona Lisa was even the most famous painting inside its gallery, inside the entire Louvre. Did not have a room of its own as it does today, just hung on the wall between a couple other paintings. And it was actually this heist we're talking about today that brought the painting the notoriety and then worldwide fame that it still has.
So let's get into the heist itself. It's Paris, August 1911, a few years before World War I. It's extremely hot. Like 90 degrees every day. Fires are breaking out all over the country. In the first arrondissement rests the Louvre, the world's largest museum, and it's sweltering in there too. And the museum is going under renovation. Guards were few and their methods were dubious, except for, of course, the cassoulet-eating security guard Maximilian Papardon, something our ringleader Vincenzo saw and took advantage of.
Enter Vincenzo Perugia, 30, working class artist. He has a classic early 1900s working class Italian look, if you would. Short, stocky, mustache, thick mustache, dark hair, deep set eyes. And he works for a firm contracted by the Louvre to clean and reframe the paintings. He also had to construct cases for some of the works in the museum, including, can you guess which painting?
I can guess which one it is.
Guess.
It's the Mona Lisa,
yes,
Todd.
La Gioconda. Yes, terrible accent. Yes, the Mona Lisa. So Perugia and these other men were adding frames, glass frames, to the many paintings as the museum was more concerned about vandalism at the time than outright theft. Their eyes were not on the prize. They were focused on the wrong thing. Maybe it wasn't focused on the wrong thing. Maybe they should have just been focused on both. Clearly, outright theft was something that was possible, as proven by Vincenzo. So it's Sunday, August 20th, 1911. Perugia and his friends, the Lancelotti brothers, that's Vincenzo Lancelotti and Michel Lancelotti. So now we have two Vincenzos.
We got two Vincenzos.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
But Vincenzo, Perugia, now the Lancelotti brothers, Vincenzo and Michel, they enter the Louvre. And Vincenzo was Perugia's best friend. Michel tagged along. We have pictures of them, actually both smiling in their pictures. They actually look like nice, fun guys to spend time with. I like these guys.
Yeah, I do too.
So Perugia had been working there, no problem with entry. They just let him walk right in. And it's 1911, so, no high-tech security, no cameras, no technological locks. This is not like some of the other more recent cases we talk about where they had to avoid cameras or know the system well or know what time something might move to a different direction and avoid that. This is just, in and out. And so the three of them spend the night in a storage closet. And I mean, there's details in this, but I mean, I think you and I both were wondering, like, why don't they just steal it right then and there? Like, I don't know why they couldn't just take it and get out if they were known for taking paintings in and out.
That's a good point.
A little unclear to me.
Yeah, I guess if they're taking paintings in and out, that makes sense. Why didn't he just go for it? I was assuming that on Mondays, the security is even more lax because they're closed on Mondays to the public. So it's like a teacher work day. It's like people just around. There might be less security.
Less people around. There's not much security anyway.
Clearly, people that work here would never do anything bad. I only have to watch out for people that are, from the public or whatever.
Yep.
So I think that's my guess.
Don't worry, it's just me, Vincenzo. I'm always here on Mondays taking paintings in and out. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
So,
but he did disguise himself as an employee, so maybe he was trying to go. Hopefully, the security guard didn't know him too well because him and his two friends dressed up in white smocks and then got out there Sunday morning. But I think it's really funny to imagine three guys in a closet all night in like 90-degree weather. Just like, it must be so awkward. Do they get to lay down? Do they have to stand there? Can you imagine Vincenzo being like, can you please pass me the granola bar? Or like,
did they bring snacks? What were those snacks?
Did they bring snacks? Yeah. Or like, I'm also imagining them like peeking out like Larry, Curly, the Three Stooges, or a cartoon where like it's a head and a head and a head out of a door frame,
Is it time? Well, yeah. I mean, is there light in this closet? How do they know what time it is? Watches existed then. They can wear a watch, right? I didn't think for a second, like, did watches exist?
No, I think watches came out in like the 80s. No one knew what time it was until
they had a
recently.
sundial. They had a sundial in the closet, and they were just checking that.
That was it.
Yeah. So we said this is not like maybe a crime a mastermind would pull off, but it took endurance. They had to survive the night in a closet. So not everybody would have that patience, at least, right? So if we could give them the props for something, it is at least that they took their time, they were patient, and they did pull it off. It's not, sorry, spoiler alert.
Wow.
They do steal the painting. Sorry.
Yeah.
I ruined the story. No suspense now.
No, for a while, it's like, why did he need anyone to do this with him? But I know why. So the three of them, they throw on their white outfits and they just blend into everyone else, on that Monday where it's closed, inconspicuous. And then they slip out of the closet and they go to the Mona Lisa, and the case is 200 pounds. And Vincenzo, I looked it up, is 5'3". He can't pick that up. He needs friends. He needs friends to lift it. I think that's exactly one of the reasons why he needed anybody, or maybe to help him blend in more. I don't know. Which I think is funny. So, and then they undo the case, which he's really good at doing, and then they lift it out of there, and I think they just walked out. I did read somewhere where at one point they were locked in for a second, and they literally had to I read where they had to take off a doorknob in a frantic Coen Brothers-esque moment. Like, oh my God, we're locked in, we need to leave. But I think they got it there pretty clean after that.
I mean, yeah, right, because it wasn't that big, right? 21 inches by 30 inches. It's like the size of a small poster. It's not that big. I think we read that they hid it under their coat. So a little inconspicuous.
I'm not sure how a tiny poster needs a 200-pound case. I can't imagine that at all. But I'm also thinking
it's probably, I was imagining a big coat. I was imagining like a big French coat, but also it's 90-something degrees, right? So it's everyone else have their shirts off and they're in their shorts, and here come these three guys in their big coats, and it's that doesn't stand out. That's a little bit less Coen Brothers to me, a little bit more like Mr. Magoo. Like, I didn't see a thing. Go ahead, go on by, mister.
Yeah,
you're not carrying anything strange. Yeah.
But they, other than that, they got out pretty scot clean, and they took a train at 7:40 a.m. So they were really on it, or to break it down, I guess. And they took the train out of the city, and then Persia crashes with his cousin Gaetano for a few days. And then he eventually comes back and stashes it in his apartment. That is the only piece of artwork they steal that day. And I was wondering, if it wasn't the famous yet, why was that the piece they stole? We can figure out the motivations later. There's debating.
We can talk about that, but that was my first reaction too. It's like the Mona Lisa, we think of being so famous. Of course it was stolen, but it wasn't famous yet. And yet that's the one piece they steal. So definitely okay, it's not the most expensive in the museum. So if they're doing it for money, which I think a lot of people still think that, we'll get into later, it's like you would steal something else. Maybe it's the right size too, it's smaller than some of the other pieces.
I have a theory of why they actually do have a theory that I think is funny and accurate of why they chose Mona Lisa that we can tell at the end, I think.
Okay. That's called a tease in the business.
That's a tease. You have to listen to the whole thing. So sorry.
But I think these are good questions to ask that I think someone who would immediately, again, just assume it's famous and that's why they took it. But nope, became famous after. And, how did the theft get noticed? Maybe an obvious question. You'd be like, hey, there's no painting on the wall. But, again, they were taking paintings in and out to be reframed. They were taking paintings off the walls to be photographed. We'll talk about that in a second. The next day, they're closed on Monday, so it's Tuesday now. It's more than 28 hours after Perugia and his brother friends steal the work. And a pushy still life artist, this is a quote from NPR, a pushy still life artist, sets up his easel to paint the gallery in the Louvre where the Mona Lisa typically lives. And the still life artist gets curious. This is, again, according to NPR. He felt he couldn't work as long as the Mona Lisa wasn't there. That's according to, that's actually according to the author of a book called Stealing Mona Lisa. It's Tom Hubler. And at the time, as mentioned, there was a project underway to photograph the Louvre's work. So the artist was persuading a guard to see how long the photographers were going to take with the Mona Lisa. Like, where is it? I need it back. I need to paint this. And the guard came back, and apparently, I don't know if it was Maximilian or not. It could have been a different cassoulet-loving guard, but came back and said, the photographers say they don't have it. They don't have it. Where could it be? I
think it's weird that there was a photographer. We need photographs and paintings of these paintings. I thought the still life artist paints paintings of paintings. I didn't know that was a thing.
Actually, it does make sense to me, but I was like, wait, why would they photo? But I was like, oh, they probably did that historically because photography was not as easy or simple. But now that it was like, okay, you still need to paint the rooms. I agree.
Or maybe the photographer is taking a photo of the man painting the painting.
Does the Louvre now have paintings that are paintings of the paintings that used to be in the Louvre?
I'm sure there's paintings of the Louvre.
Is there a whole room that's just paintings of the Louvre inside the Louvre?
Yeah, and you see yourself while you're like, oh, that's me right there. That'd be creepy. That's another story. Yeah.
But, they discover it's gone, and then they shut down the Louvre for a whole week. The Mona Lisa now basically becomes this incredibly famous painting almost overnight because it's been stolen. Mm-hmm. And from what we read, France goes into mourning. It may not have been the most famous painting, but the Louvre is this famous museum that means so much to them. So when the Louvre reopens, thousands line up to see the blank square on the wall where Mona Lisa used to be. People leave flowers, notes. It's kind of like Diana's death, but no candle in the wind, as far as I know. And apparently, Franz Kafka, the great 20th century author, was among the people who mourned and came to visit the spot.
Yeah, and this is interestingly the first major property crime that received international media coverage. The New York Times, August 23, 1911. I'll read the quote. La Gioconda is stolen in Paris. Masterpiece of Leonardo da Vinci vanishes from Louvre, known as the Mona Lisa. Frame found on staircase. Picture not cut from it, but carefully removed. Army of detectives at work. One of world's treasures. Some judges regard the painting as the finest existing. 5 million said to have been offered for it.
It's amazing how quickly this unknown painting goes from in the Louvre to one of the finest existing in the world. So quickly, you lose something. You're like, oh no, that's my favorite pair of shoes. Were they?
That's
I don't know.
funny.
As soon as you lose something, it becomes a little bit more.
Yeah,
of
now
a treasure,
that it's
I guess.
gone. Yeah. And 5 million in 1911 was 237 million today, which is crazy.
That's a crazy amount. Yeah, reward that high. That New York Times article was pretty fascinating. 1911 New York Times. There's some amazing quotes in that article. Like one said, "The news has caused such a sensation that Parisians, for the time being, have forgotten the rumors of war." Another one was, "La Gioconda is gone. That is all I could say. So far, we have not the slightest clue as to who the perpetrator of the crime was." And then according to a museum official, I guess the theft was either sabotage or committed by a maniac. Had to be a maniac. Who else would steal a piece of art by Da Vinci? A maniac. That article, you mentioned like the detail about the picture cut from the frame and how it was found on the staircase. That was something we didn't say before. So it's an interesting little detail. I guess they only noticed it when the photographer and the artist were in the room and like, where's the painting? It's not on the wall. It can't be found. But they obviously would have found the frame in the staircase later. So a couple clues that it was gone. Yeah.
Right.
And then I guess the NYPD searched an incoming ship from France for the painting. They thought maybe it came to the U.S. That was an option. And it really became a pop culture sensation. She was on newsreels, chocolate boxes, postcards, billboards. Her fame was suddenly transformed into celebrity of like film stars and singers. This was according to Stealing the Mona Lisa, another book about the theft. So, yeah, she became instantly famous.
That's crazy. Was she on the back of milk cartons? Have you seen Mona Lisa?
Were there milk cartons in there? Wasn't it probably glass bottles?
Know.
Did the milkman, when he knocked on your door and dropped off the milk, say, "By the way, have you seen the Mona Lisa?"
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize it was on chocolate boxes and billboards. I mean, what did it even say?
Yeah.
It's gone. That's weird. But before things really heat up, let's hear from our sponsor. So, welcome back. We're talking about the Mona Lisa. So, the Mona Lisa theft becomes an affair of the state as authorities try to solve it. At one point, 60 different detectives were on the case. Attempts to solve the case were totally underwhelming and unremarkable. An article from the BBC says, but once French newspapers had described the circumstances of the theft, they had nothing more to say about it. Instead, they made up stories trying to say Leonardo had fallen in love with Gioconda and other bits of similar nonsense, says Jerome Quinar, the author of another book called Une femme disparue. Escalating tensions between France and Germany. Some people believe that Kaiser was behind it. French people unsuccessfully followed many trails of potential suspects.
The Kaiser. I think everyone would believe the Kaiser would be behind something like that. Come on, it's the Kaiser. But I guess then French police unsuccessfully followed many trails of potential suspects. There was a jailed poet, Guillaume Apollinaire, for a week. Not someone I'm familiar with, but that's someone that they thought it could be.
Okay.
They actually suspected Pablo Picasso. I have heard of Picasso. I'm not,
Yep.
But apparently he was a friend of Apollinaire. So,
okay,
that's a good way to know Guillaume. And then even American millionaire art lover J.P. Morgan was suspected of commissioning the theft. The French feared that wealthy Americans would steal all their precious masterpieces. Although I will point out, Leonardo da Vinci is not really a French masterpiece; it's an Italian masterpiece. But to each their own. And then And then all passengers on a disembarking ocean liner were also searched at some point. So somehow they thought it was on that boat for some reason and being taken to America, I guess. And they did interview Perugia not once but twice. But they found nothing to incriminate him. They forgot to add his name to the list to check his fingerprints. Apparently, great police work. Even though they also already had his fingerprints from a previous arrest. So I guess he was arrested before. Not something we mentioned before, but not someone who. I feel
like they could have probably figured that out. Interesting. I guess. I don't know. I guess the wrong one of 60 detectives took that one that day. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe we just, based on crime novels we've read at the time, we have a lot higher thoughts of what the French police was like and how they could solve things. We're picturing something that is not the reality. Because I guess all the museum employees had their fingerprints taken, but Perugia was never asked for his. So just not very thorough police work, clearly.
Right.
And then there was even a thought, the French thought it was maybe the theft was sexual in nature in some way. There's an author, R.A. Scotty, who said that the Mona Lisa often made men do strange things. There were more than 1 million artworks in the Louvre and collection, but she alone received her own mail. I don't know. I personally don't immediately believe that. And
I don't believe it.
I don't know. Was there a guard who was reading the letter to her, sitting on the floor looking up at her and saying, Jesse from Atlanta says... Mona Lisa, where have you been all my life?
Are you saying you've never written a letter to a painting?
I am saying that. If any of our listeners, if any of the members of the Heist Club want to go out there and call me out on any lies and find some proof that I have, but
that's funny. It is funny. I would like to read one of those letters. Dear Mona, what's up? I'm thinking of you.
I would honestly read an entire book of those letters. If it was just a book of letters to Mona Lisa and each page was like a different handwritten note or typed up or maybe they used newspaper print that was cut out of the newspaper and then pasted on.
I feel like everyone who did that is probably pretty unhinged. So it might be interesting to read.
Yeah, maybe those should be the suspects,
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't an ocean liner to America. Maybe it was a cruise. It was a Mona Lisa themed cruise and it was all big fans of Mona Lisa.
Exactly. Yes. They had a club and they all wrote letters together.
Yeah. So her mailbox is still open for anyone out there.
Yeah.
But then also, I guess I can't remember where we read this, but a year prior, a man actually shot himself in front of the painting. I don't know if that was out of sexual frustration or love or whatever it was, but a lot going on.
Yeah, it's weird because, they talk about how it wasn't that famous, but I guess it was. People were shooting themselves in front of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, so. That's just like, maybe it wasn't the only piece of art that, had someone shoot themselves in front. That was just a daily occurrence at the Louvre,
I did read that he lived, so maybe he shot himself in the foot or something.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was an accidental shooting,
Who knows?
Well, yeah, and then there was a different New York Times article that said a Sorbonne, which is a place in France, psychology professor warned in Le Temps that the thief might be a sexual psychopath who would take pleasure in mutilating, stabbing, and defiling her, then return her when he was through with her. And I think kind of what you're saying, this says more about that psychologist than it does any of the actual motivations of the person who stole the painting. It's like, I'm sorry, what is someone doing with this painting? What are they doing?
I think they're pouring hot sauce on it and singing to it. Like, what are you talking about?
They're petting their pet bunnies and staring at it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know about all that.
The French police are clearly doing a bad job of solving this crime, and Perugia is laying low. I don't know if you want to, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. News of the theft blew up more than he thought was going to happen. He was afraid that if he turned it in, and if he was found out, he'd get arrested.
Yeah, that's how that works. You commit crimes, you get caught, you get arrested. Yeah,
exactly. And then nothing. And then nothing happened for 28 months. And people quickly kind of forgot about it, I guess they took down the billboards and got different faces on the chocolate boxes. I don't know. That's pretty crazy that I feel like they kind of went back to normal life. And then a while, I guess, Perugia just had the painting sitting there, and he's like, okay, I think it's time to maybe start trying to sell this thing. So on December 10th, 1913, Perugia attempts to sell her to Alfredo Giuri, an antique dealer in Florence.
Yeah, return her to Italy, if you would.
Yeah. Jerry is suspicious as the head of an Italian art gallery come to look at the painting to verify that it's real. But also, like, I really want to know about the conversation of like, hey, you looking for like a painting? Like, I got a good painting for you. Like, you can't. I gotta see. Like, how do you like get to the point where you think you can tell someone that you have the freaking Mona Lisa?
Yeah. Have you heard of the Mona Lisa? Yeah. Well, I have it. Oh, I wonder how you got it.
Yeah, and I guess he wasn't that great of a judgment of character because this guy could not keep a secret. Spoiler. Yeah, they said, okay, leave it with us, and we'll see that you get a reward for bringing it back to Italy, And December 12th, Perugia lounges in his hotel room, probably anxious, waiting for his payment. But to his surprise, the police came instead of cash. And then he was immediately arrested. Yeah. It's really interesting. I wouldn't know how to turn over anything I was stolen either. So
I'm surprised that he was surprised,
Yeah.
It's like, right. Oh, he was worried about turning at the beginning because he get arrested. He waits 28 months. He tries to sell it to a dealer, and immediately he's arrested. Like, oh, what could have happened here? I am in shock.
Man, I thought you were cool, man.
Yeah,
I
I'm Italian. You're Italian. She's Italian. Just a bunch of Italians here. Come on.
Yeah.
Not a lot of loyalty there. But then I guess he sticks to his story that he acted alone too. When they talk to him, I'm not sure how quickly he cops up to, I stole her, but it sounds like pretty quickly he says, he's not calling out his well, it's not, they were brothers, but they weren't his brothers. Yeah.
Right.
So the world is shocked except for one, and that is Gabriele D'Annunzio. This is Italy's most famous poet and a staunch Italian nationalist. Apparently he made a prediction that Mona Lisa would return. Cool. But 4 days before it turned up in France, he told acquaintances, I have a conviction that it will return. So I'm not sure if he actually had inside information or much, but I mean, he was a poet and an artist, and he had this prediction. He's a soothsayer, if you would.
That's interesting. That's pretty good on him. That's a good move.
Right?
There you go.
I mean, I guess when she vanished, D'Annunzio falsely confessed also to stealing the Mona Lisa, and the Paris detectives even opened a file on him too. So, I mean, I guess he wasn't involved in the end, but I don't know what. I mean, I guess he was falsely confessing out of like pride for Italy. Like, oh, maybe he intended it more as like, I would have stolen it on behalf of Italy to return her. And it came across more as I did steal it, but he didn't.
Right.
Yeah. But then during Perugia's trial, which is obviously later, D'Annunzio claimed Perugia confessed to him and actually brought the Mona Lisa for D'Annunzio to witness in person. Maybe that happened. I don't know. I think we read it probably never actually happened. They shared they did share an acquaintance, this Alfredo Guerri, you mentioned, whose wife was having an affair with D'Annunzio at the time. And he was he was the dealer who turned Perugia in. Perhaps Guerri's wife let slip that Mona Lisa was possibly going to her husband. I don't know. Whether they knew each other or not, D'Annunzio supported Perugia through his prison sentence, visiting him, bringing him new clothes, and supplying him with cash. I'm not sure what cash does for you when you're in prison, but he gave him cash.
I think you can buy extra snacks. I don't know. I've seen movies.
Yeah. Early 20th century prison in Italy. We know it so well. That's our expertise.
Yeah, exactly. But like, why did he steal this painting, man? Like, what do you think? Like, what is the motive? It's largely unknown, even though I figured it out.
I can't wait to hear it, Jesse. I can't wait. I know. You're going to spill that tea soon.
I know. You guys are going to be blown away. Weirdly, Perugia insisted that his motivation was patriotic. He said the painting had been stolen from Italy by Napoleon and that his mission was to return it to its source. Would explain why he chose this painting, a Da Vinci, out of all the paintings in the museum.
I mean, I do buy that. I mean, again, like I think not everyone does, but again, just because to me it's not the most famous painting, it's not the most expensive painting, there had to be another motivation. So whether that's actually confirmed outside of that's what D'Annunzio would have done, I don't know. I just buy that as like, okay, that makes sense why you would choose that one painting out of all. But again, there's other theories. Sorry, keep going.
But more likely, he was in it for the money. I mean, he not quickly, 2 years later, tried to pawn it off. He made a list of American art collectors. He's just likely trying to sell it to anyone, not just an Italian art dealer. So he wasn't that committed and patriotic. He wasn't like really set on returning it back to Italy. He just kind of said that maybe it's a mixture of both. I'm sure he's patriotic. You know, I was reading about how like the French weren't necessarily that nice to him. They called him macaroni, I read.
Oh.
So maybe he was just kind of like pissed off and, you know, so maybe it's that, but also, you know, trying to get some money. He stated pretty plainly in letters Perugia wrote to his parents, to a politician, to an art dealer in Rome, to Alfredo Girid that he wanted the money. He asked for 500,000 in Italian lira, 650,000 today. But why didn't he steal a better known painting?
Exactly. That's why I don't completely buy the money thing. It's like if you're in for the money, you steal the better known painting. I mean, maybe they were too big. You know, Da Vinci was obviously well known, so you would think a Da Vinci could be worth a lot. Yeah, I get why it's confusing.
Yeah.
You know, again, I also look at like if he had the list of American art dealers, like that makes sense to me. Maybe he was more likely to get away with it if he came all the way to the U.S., but getting there was harder. And also clearly in the end, he just went to Italy anyway.
Yeah. There's another theory that he was manipulated by an Argentine man, Eduardo di Villafirno, into stealing it. But I don't know anything about that, and but probably didn't exist.
But yeah, that was kind of a weird story. I guess in 1932, this journalist, Carl Decker, published a story in the Saturday Evening Post claiming that de Valfierno commissioned Perugia to steal Mona Lisa from the Louvre because he wanted it to sell forgeries. But I guess Decker's article is the only source for this theory, and he was apparently well known for taking liberties with his articles. So this theory is likely untrue. I'm not sure if the Saturday Evening Post in general was known for nothing but cold hard facts.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Overall, I mean, based on this, I think we assume he was in it for the cash, was in it for the patriotism. I don't know. Did you give your theory yet? I want to hear your theory.
You want to hear my theory?
Yeah, give me
I'll
your
tell
theory.
it now. I think there's definitely some patriotism in there, and he wanted the money, and he clearly wanted a Italian painted. He wanted a Da Vinci, but I don't buy that he was in love with the Mona Lisa like all these weird people were. I looked it up, and there were 4 other Da Vincis in the Louvre at the time, and they were all a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And he is 5'3". We already touched this earlier.
Yeah.
I think it's the only one he can sneak out.
Yeah.
I think he's like, okay, I can take this one. It's really freaking small. I got this one under my coat. I think that's the only reason he took it. I mean, he had narrowed it down to Da Vinci and money and patriotism, but when he came to choosing the Da Vinci, it wasn't obsessed with Mona Lisa's smile. It was because it was like 20 inches long, So that is my theory.
We've also kind of established he wasn't a mastermind, right? So I don't know how many people were working in the Louvre. Sounds like a lot. And were, taking paintings off and reframing them. It's very possible that was the room he was given, right? Let's say he was put in that room of all rooms.
Right.
He recognized Da Vinci's name. He liked the size of it. And he's like, This would be so easy to steal. I'll just put it under my coat in this 90-degree weather, and walked off with it. And obviously sat on it for 28 months, not knowing what the hell to do with it. So
I think that's exactly what happened.
I think it's very easy to have a lot of theories because I don't think he knew, right? I think it was just like
I think
you do things in the moment, it just happens. So
yeah, he's an opportunist. He clearly didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
and right when he thought he did, he immediately got caught. So I don't think, I don't buy all the romantic crazy theories.
Well, whatever the theories, I mean, we did see that like once he got caught, public opinion on him changed pretty quickly though. Like people looked at him as like a lovable, quirky guy who fell in love with a work of art and did not damage it. So all of a sudden, everyone was in mourning when they lost Mona Lisa.
Right.
But once they found him and they I don't know, people love a good criminal, I guess. I don't know. Maybe, not always. That's not for sure. Although people watch plenty of true crime series and listen to plenty of true crime podcasts. So, they're fascinated by criminals at least. But in this case, they saw him as a Robin Hood character a little bit, like a working class guy trying to do the right thing by returning the Mona Lisa home, returning her to Italy where she belonged. And then the public went wild over her recovery. The New York Times, again, keep quoting it, wrote an article with the headline, Florentines in riot over Mona Lisa. A crowd of 30,000 swept the police aside in a mad rush to see the stone painting. So it's like, we have found her. She is home. We must see her. Out of our way. But, so even though Perugia kept his trap shut by the Lancelottis, well, you know what they say about celebrating too early. But first, let's hear from our sponsor.
Stay tuned.
Okay, now we're back, and the focus does shift to the brothers. On December 15th, Perugia was questioned in Florence. Though he never gave up any names, it became obvious he had an accomplice. And the next day, Perugia's cousin, the one who let him crash on his couch, was it Gaetano, gives police Vincenzo Lancelotti's address. And then they search Vincenzo's Paris apartment, which he also shares with his girlfriend, Francois. And police learned that Vincenzo had a brother who lives in the same building, but was conveniently away at that time. So they employed a locksmith. I don't know if this was legal at the time. They employed a locksmith to get his door open. And when that failed, some old pliers did the trick. Okay. Yeah, classic pliers trick. And then at 6 p.m. the same day, Vincenzo, Michelle, and Vincenzo's girlfriend, who from her comments, she seemed pretty miffed about the whole thing, they were brought before a judge for questioning. And then Vincenzo's girlfriend was, as I said, very offended at the questions hurled her way. I'm not going to do the accent. I'll do a version of me acting it out.
Sure.
Me, a French woman concealing the Mona Lisa? If I had seen it in the hands of Perugia, I would have jumped on him, taken the painting, and reported it to the Louvre. What a woman of great moral character. And then Vincenzo argued that they had once been best friends, but had a breakup, I'm again using quotes, after a fight while working at the Louvre. And then Michel, Vincenzo Lancelotti's brother, Michel Lancelotti, he admitted to helping Perugia carry the crate which held the Mona Lisa to the train, but then said he denied knowing what was inside. I guess he was quoted as saying, "For when we return to Italy, we like to take presents to our parents and friends from Paris, but not works of art, especially not those of the Louvre." Again, it sounds again like the Lancelottis are terrible liars, just like terrible, terrible liars. I guess they were not arrested that day. They were sent home around 7:30 by the judge. So, more investigations to come.
Perugia wrote the following plea for bail from prison. December 16th, 1913. I was encouraged by the pride for my nation. I wanted to see an art masterpiece loved by all people of Florence and all Italy. It wasn't for selfishness or personal revenge. I thought by bringing back to Italy a masterpiece made by one of its most notable sons, I was making an act of justice. Yesterday, the examining magistrate asked me if I wanted bail, and now I am here begging you, Mr. Public Prosecutor, to grant me that. I would be so much thankful if I could go back to my family. He was denied bail. It did not work.
It did not work. I will say, Perugia had time to craft this and write this and say a certain way, unlike the Lancelotti brothers who were in front of a judge and saying in the moment. But I think Perugia is a much better liar. I buy this so much more than I was just carrying a crate, or, oh, we just played music together. It's like, no, this is like, Perugia's a good writer. He could have been a writer. He should have taken his time to do that. So, yeah, but then also... he was denied, like you said. And then a new character at the 11th hour. We could introduce someone new. This is December 17th. There's a search of Perugia's Paris apartment and produces a number of letters written by a woman named Mathilde. The hunt for Mathilde is now on. Who was she? Well, Parisian newspapers had their own idea of who she was. According to them, Mathilde was Perugia's inspiration behind the theft. He was so overcome with passion for how much the Mona Lisa resembled his lost love that he stole the painting. A fun story, but pure fiction, unsurprisingly. I guess Mathilde turned out to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German who met Perugia in 1912, which is after the painting was stolen, and they dated through the summer of 1913. So Mathilde intended to marry Perugia, but it all came crashing down when she found the letters from other women in his bedroom. Oh, other women? I wasn't ready for that. I thought it was going to be like she left him because he stole the Mona Lisa. No. Apparently he just had other women other than the Mona Lisa in his life.
He's a mess.
And a decent liar and not a great thief in the end. Not a great thief. And in the end, not a good friend either, we should say, because he does betray the Lancelottis. On December 20th, he breaks down during interrogation and he reveals that Vincenzo Lancelotti, not himself, Vincenzo, was in on the heist from the inception. So on the next day, the 21st, the inspector goes back to Vincenzo Lancelotti's apartment to make the arrest, and he is once again met with my favorite character, and probably yours, Vincenzo's angry girlfriend, Francois, who yelled, "You make me disgusted to be French." Disgusted. And then both brothers were charged that evening, and Francois. And she angrily cursed Perugia, I would strangle him with my own hands if I ever see him again. So I'm guessing that means she did not know he was in on it.
Yeah, that's crazy that she was also punished. Almost feel bad for her, even though in
I do.
in history she seems only angry all the time.
Yeah, she's still my fave.
I guess it makes sense.
I like her.
All right, good.
She's got spunk.
That's good.
She's got spunk.
So then Perugia gets his wish, sort of. On December 29th, the Mona Lisa reached Milan, where she was temporarily exhibited in the Beira Gallery. He succeeded in bringing her home, even though he didn't get to see it. But then she finally makes it to another home. On New Year's Eve, she returns to France. For a brief time, she was placed on exhibition in the National School of Fine Arts. The profits were distributed to the Italian poor in Paris as a recognition of Italy's part in the recovery of the masterpiece. We don't know if the profits were actually distributed or if that was just show by the French to look good. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that's actually when I think about the profits, it makes me go back to like the $5 million at the time that was given as a reward. So did this Italian gallery owner get any reward for turning in Perugia, So Perugia was then sentenced, he was found guilty and sentenced to 1 year and 15 days, but ended up serving just around 8 months, which does not sound like a lot of time. Even 1 year and 15 days does not sound like a lot of time for the crime he committed and what a national and international affair it was. But I guess the shortened sentence came out because of an imbecile, in quotes, diagnosis from the court psychiatrist, this guy Paolo Amaldi. I guess one of the questions was like, hey, and you can listen to us, club members. Can you get the answer right? There are 2 birds in a tree. If a hunter shoots one of them, how many are left in the tree? And apparently if you answered 1, you were also an imbecile.
I would have said 1.
Because the other bird flies away. I don't know. To me, that's a basic math question. 2 minus 1 is 1. I don't know if that's the right question you should be asking to find out if someone's an imbecile or not.
Maybe he didn't know it was a riddle.
Yeah.
Because I feel like riddles are, sneaky and annoying, I think.
When I think of a riddle, I think more of like there are 2 birds flying in the sky. 1 is shot down. How many birds are in the tree? And like, oh, it's 0 because they were flying. No birds were in the tree. Like that's like a riddle to me. Not like there's 1 in the tree. I don't know. Maybe the other bird is deaf and can't hear anything. It's just like, where'd my friend go?
Exactly.
Where'd my friend go? What happened here?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little more abstract. I think he was like trying to trick him, which maybe he's trying to help him. He's like, oh, I'll try to trick you, and then I'll get you a lesser sentence because you'll legally be stupid.
I agree. Also, if you're Perugia, you want to be an imbecile. You'll answer questions the wrong way on purpose so you can get less time in prison. I guess you have to be pretty smart to then not be an imbecile. Anyway.
No, that is true. That's true. It hurts my brain.
And then after that, I guess the Lancelotis and Francois seemingly fade into the background. Don't have as much about what happens to them. But then just a few days after his trial, World War I begins and the whole story fades. But not for our pal Jury, the gallery owner, who was still trying to get his cash reward, his prize money for returning the masterpiece. However, French stubbornness leads to a lengthy lawsuit, and the Mona Lisa is actually declared priceless, if you would. This is pretty great for Jury, right? Nope, wrong. Apparently priceless means $0 for Jury. This is the wrong version of priceless. This is not the $5 million that he expected.
Right.
But it's so priceless, you deserve nothing for it.
That's kind of the opposite. I feel like he deserves all the money. Sounds like a cheap excuse. That's not very fair.
Well, also, the next time this happens, right? Let's say something else gets stolen from the Louvre and they try to bring it to a gallery owner. If I'm that gallery owner, I no longer have any incentive to return it to the museum. It's like, sure, I will take this from you and I will sell it and make money because they're not giving me anything. Yeah,
that's true. The incentive is low to do the right thing.
So unlucky Cherie, and that's the end of most of the story. Now thanks to Perugia and the Lancelotti brothers, we'll give them a little bit of credit. The Mona Lisa is one of the world's, if not the world's most famous painting.
Yeah, and now I understand why.
Yeah,
because I did not, and I didn't understand it for my whole life, and then I realized a year ago how freaking tiny it was, and then I was really even more unimpressed. You said you've been to the Louvre. I saw one time my friend showed me a video on his phone. He's like, "Look at this." Maybe I don't know. You're talking about how it gets its own room because maybe something was happening because he shows a video of this giant 20-foot amazing masterpiece painting.
Yep.
And then he pans over and there's a bunch of people obsessed with the tiny Mona Lisa, which I thought was really funny.
Not a big painting on a rather big wall. And And actually, they did just announce beginning January 2025 that it's being moved. They're moving it to make. They're doing a big renovation at the Louvre. I guess they're really moving it to make it easier to view other masterpieces, which are too often overlooked. That are on display in the same room or nearby. So but if it gets taken, that's a story for a future episode. Another chance to steal the Mona Lisa.
Can't they just put it higher on the wall? I feel like everyone's like reaching to take a picture of it, and I know it's been vandalized, like caked and souped and stuff. Like, just put it a little bit higher, man. Like, I don't know. Clearly, I know nothing about framing and hanging art.
Yes. Well, I know nothing as well. Perugia knew a lot though, and it helps him steal the painting. But now I guess about 20,000 people a day go to visit the Mona Lisa. It's every day, and while it was at the time, Yep. And at the time, while it was ruled priceless, it actually holds the Guinness World Record for the highest known painting insurance valuation in history, which was $100 million in 1962, which is now equivalent to $1 billion as of 2 years ago, 2023. I guess that's probably just a little more than $1 billion today.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's it, huh?
That's the story. So, if you're a fan of the show, well, join the club. We're at Heist Club Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Tell us, have you ever seen the Mona Lisa? Did you fall in love with the Mona Lisa? Did you want to steal the Mona Lisa? Or any other pieces of art? Any other stories you think we should cover next?
And tune in next week for Bye Bye Buzzy, a daring Disney heist. All right. See you next time.
See you next time. Heist Club is a production of School of Humans, hosted by me, Todd Weiser.
And me, Jesse Neiswanger. I also do all the fancy audio and music and editing too.
This episode was researched by Grace Ginsburg and produced by Carolyn Talmadge. Our senior producer is Amelia Bruck.
Our production manager is Daisy Church. Our executive producers are Virginia Prescott, Brandon Barr, and Elsie Crowley.
Join us again next week for Heist Club, and don't forget to rate and review.